Hello, and welcome to the Divine Feminine Leaders podcast. We are a feminine view of entrepreneurship for women, by women. And what that really means is we've been in this very masculine culture for a long time. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for a long time, we've had the divine feminine kind of taken out of the workplace and out of business in a lot of ways. And so what this particular podcast really focuses in on is helping bring that back in and bring it into balance. Because what I really believe in, what we've talked about before on this podcast, is that the divine feminine is really the creativity and the flow and the inspiration. And the divine masculine is the action, and it's really putting all of that inspiration and that creativity out into the physical world. And so we love to showcase women who are really living life on their terms. And often it's women who have stepped out of overwhelm and anxiety and into confidence and clarity and really living life on purpose in a big way. So today I am super honored and excited to introduce you to Heather Manwaring. She is a photographer who provides a transformational experience of healing and personal expression for women in business and in life. A California native who has totally fallen in love with living in New York City, Heather's unique Transfire photographic process is informed by her years of experience with different healing modalities, including authentic relating and visual meditation. Through her work, Heather provides an artistic and personal development opportunity as she creates space for her clients to shed light on the emotions that are too often repressed in photographs for their personal collections and for branding purposes. She helps her clients transform those energies into sources of embodied power and radiant magnetism. Heather envisions a world where everyone feels safe to fall in love with themselves as they are and relate to each other in healthy ways across the board, personally and in business. Heather believes in photography as a means to help us reach our potential to fully heal from a history of abuse and create a wildly better future together. And just to wax a little bit poetic about Heather, I met Heather a couple years ago at an authentic relating camp, actually, and was just blown away by her authenticity. And we've remained in contact, a little bit loose contact over Facebook, and watching each other's personal growth and what we've both gone through in our lives. And I had an interesting conversation with a friend lately who said, you know, you have those professional branding photos from 4 years ago, but they're not, do you really feel like they're still you? And I said, no, but at this moment, you know, a couple months ago, I didn't feel called to like really work through them. And then all of a sudden I woke up one morning and I was like, I need to talk to Heather, actually. Heather is going to be the person to like be doing my new branding photos in the future because of the rawness of what she really is able to bring through, and the way she's able to hold space and really bring people's brilliance out into the world. And so that is why she's here with me today. And I want to welcome you, Heather. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and for that beautiful introduction. So amazing. Especially because at camp, like you were such a catalyst for me in your sharing of your history, and it just like totally brought me into the present moment of mine. And it's like, I really feel like that was a catalytic moment for me. So it's been so awesome to meet you and to, like you said, watch you grow, and kind of how our lives have kind of weaved in and out. So
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for that. That was one of the most vulnerable shares I've ever done. And for anybody who doesn't know, we went to this place called Connection Camp, and I had written this piece actually just a couple weeks or 10 days prior to that camp. And it was one of those if you don't know, I'm a writer. It was one of those pieces that just like dropped in, and I knew it had to come out, and it was so powerful, and I couldn't share it with anyone. I could not share it with anyone, but I knew that at this camp they were going to be doing a talent show, and people were going to be able to stand on stage. And so I actually couldn't even share it with the directors of the talent show or the camp. I was like, I have a piece. It's really important. I need to share it. And so that was really the first time that I had, and it was powerful. And so to me, that's the power of the written word and sharing our story. And that's why I loved your work, because you're really like doing the same thing, but doing it through photographs. So tell me a little bit about like this evolution of really showcasing women in their raw and their vulnerable stages of, I mean, I see your, I'm going to be honest, like I see your photographs sometimes and I'm like, God, like they're raw, they're like crying and like really vulnerable stuff. And it's uncomfortable from the society and this norm of what we see that's like pretty and posed and, you know, like perfect.
Yeah. I guess I don't know exactly where to start, but I'll start just by saying that, this really came about because it was what I wanted to see in the world. And it like this passion of mine is a culmination of everything that I care about. So like the three categories that I care most about are personal development, art, and people, relationships. And so this kind of landed in me as like, oh my God, this is my thing. This is what I want to do, and kind of creating a unique offering out of thin air, really. And it wasn't until someone told me that I could be doing this for business that I saw the connection between the personal life bleeding out into the business life, where, you know, and like I am personally tired of seeing everyone in this like perfect, you know, kind of put on persona, you know. I want to see the human behind the business. I want to trust that there is a human that can relate to me and who gets my struggle and who can truly help me because they've been through it. You know, so this is just kind of like, this is what I want to see in the world. And so I'm creating it.
I love that. And I love the pillars of like professional or personal development rather, which can be professional development as well, and art, and then relationships. And so in your bio, there was like talk about authentic relating, and that clearly was the camp that we met at, was all around that authentic relating and really being able to hear and listen to people. So I'm curious if you want to like dive deep a little bit for the people who have never heard of that particular way of interacting with people, and explain a little bit more about how that is. Because I know that in you and my conversation a couple weeks ago, the way the authentic relating allows you to hold space and hear what the client is needing and what their concerns are, and all of that is really beautiful. So can you explain a little bit more on that?
Yeah, well, for me, it's been such a way for me to truly bring into the world who I've always been. When I was very young, my mom implemented this thing called reflection bench that she learned from her therapist. And so from a very young age, we were introduced to a way of communicating that was based on listening, based on honesty. And, you know, I didn't really appreciate that fully. It's kind of just been like people share things with me just without me really prodding. It's always been that way, of just people telling me things that they don't tell anyone else. And when I went to camp and was introduced to the authentic relating and the circling, it was like, oh my God, I have such an amazing foundation that this enhances. This makes it for me so much more clear that I have a gift in this capacity, and that like there's just, it was more tools in my tool belt. So, you know, authentic relating for me, at least my perception of it, is that it's about connection first, and truth, and being able to listen to someone else. And for me, being able to share honestly about how I felt, to have a safe space to explore what was coming up for me in connection with someone else was huge, and is still huge, because it was something I didn't have. You know, even though we had a lot of communication implemented in the family, I still didn't always feel like I could show up fully in my family. So with this group, with circling and authentic relating, it was like, I am not only allowed to be who I am, but it's encouraged, and I'm encouraged to go deeper and to share more, and to, you know, and something that I love about authentic relating and circling is that you can see in real time the impact that you have on other people. So yeah, I really loved it. It was so exciting for me to be introduced to this, because it was like, oh yes, there are people in the world who want what I want, you know, in that honesty, in that vulnerable sharing, in the connection, in relationship. And I think that's so healing, because so much of us have, well, so much of us, but I will speak for myself. Like, I had so much trauma in relationship that it was the thing that like helped me realize that there is something different possible.
I love that. And it feels like there's so much presence. Like, to me, in the authentic relating, circling is another way that it's referred to. And that's why Heather keeps saying that. There's so much presence in it. Like, to me, it's meditative.
It is, yeah.
Like, you're clearing your minds of whatever preconceived notions you have of what the other person is feeling, and you're being really present with that and saying, tell me about that. Tell me, you know, like, tell me a little bit more about that. I hear that you're feeling this way. Is that true? And it's like this continual check-in process. That some people are not comfortable with. I've done it with some
it's
people,
not
and they get
comfortable.
really like defensive and combative, and like, why are you asking me all these questions and not giving me any response back? And I'm like, I'm trying to like hold space. Like, I'm really trying to be present with you in this moment. I'm trying to understand, and I want to like create, but it's a lot for some people.
It is. And at some point I think it does become a little bit too much, you know, but the thing that I love is that for the most part, and, you know, obviously you, like I said, real time impact, where sometimes someone's triggered and you're like, oh my God, whoops, like, didn't mean to do that. But, you know, that you can check a projection, be like, oh, I think like I'm seeing this in you. Is that true? Or is that my projection? And, you know, being able to be in that exploration and discovery together with the right person, I think is like so valuable. And so in bringing that into my work, it's so amazing, because then there is that room and that space for us to explore what's going on with you. What is it like to be you? What has your struggle been like? You know, what impact has those stories or those beliefs that you have, you know, affecting you and your relationships? And there's so much space for like the emotion to really come out. And that's why I get the photos that I do, because it's full focus on their reality, and then guidance through, like, okay, what do you want? Like, what stories are you willing to let go? And, you know, in that gap is where the emotional, you know, upheaval happens. Is like, okay, here's where I am, here's where I want to go. And this, in like kind of awkward in between phase, is where the magic happens, because there's like, oh my God, I didn't know how much rage was in here. I didn't know how much grief I'd been holding back. You know, all of these emotions that, you know, we're told, or like we believe that we can't express, because they would lead to a loss of love. They would lead to abandonment, you know, and it's hard when we have like proof from experiences in our lives where that's been true, and to, you know, be told that there is another way, that there's something else that's possible.
Right.
So, and yeah.
I love that. And it really brings up for me like the authenticity that you're able to get behind the camera with people. I know that I've been told by people, well, this is how you are in your photos, so this is how you need to show up every day in your life from here on out. It's got to be like the fake eyelashes, and it's got to be the specific outfits, and you have to be dressed a certain way and all of that. And I got to the point where I'm like, that's freaking exhausting.
Yeah.
Like, how about I just be who I am?
Yeah.
And that's been like my particular journey with like, okay, how do I accept all of me and then show all of me and be okay with it all, right? Like heal the parts that need to be healed and accept the parts that I can't change, or change them if I can, and really yeah, just step into our own fullness. And it feels like that's what you're really doing with your clients in your work.
Yeah, because like you, like I felt exhausted trying to maintain a persona that wasn't true.
Right.
That, or like that parts of it were true, but that I kind of, it became a like a box, or like a cage that I created, you know, to fit what I thought society wanted, or my family wanted, or my partner wanted, you know, whoever it is, doesn't matter. That like, I was so tired. I'm like, this isn't fully true. And I don't want to lock myself into having to show up in a certain way all the time. You know, sometimes like I love being in charge and the leader, and like leading my own way. And there are times where like, I don't want to be the leader. I don't want to figure it out. I don't want to be the one that everyone looks to like fix everything, you know? And sometimes I want to be the one to be held, and you know, and so just being honest about this is who I am. These are things that I've been through. These are things that I have felt. These are things that, you know, I want in my life. So yeah, you know, I don't wear a lot of makeup. I don't wear, you know, high heels and do all the things, you know, and I think for me, there was so much shame in like, oh, I can't be successful if I don't do X, Y, and Z. And I kind of was just like, fine, well, I'm going to do my own thing then, because like I don't want to do these things, and there's nothing wrong with not wanting to do these things. So
yeah,
how about just starting from where I am?
And that is like, that's another belief, right? Like, if I don't fit into this box, then I can't be successful. And often we define success then as financial or business achievement or whatever, right? So there is this space where I believe that we need to redefine success a little bit into like more happiness and like being true and being authentic.
Absolutely.
And then when we are completely authentic and are able to own all of ourselves, then that more societal definition of success comes, right? Because we're falling in love with ourselves on a deeper level.
Yeah.
And it's so powerful. So it feels like that is really what your work is. Like, it's not just taking photos. Like, when you were telling me about your process, I was like, whoa, this is like, so talk to us a little bit about that, because I have never heard of anyone doing photos the way you do them, in like the type of progression of them, and the bringing people really into where they, figuring out what they desire. So tell us a little bit. I don't want to mess it up, so tell us a little bit about
that. Well, and that's the cool thing. You can't mess it up. Like, it's not about doing it correctly. There's not like a formula that everyone is so unique. And that's what I keep seeing over and over again, where we can feel the same things like anger and rage and grief and joy and desire, all these things, but it doesn't show up ever in the same way fully. So the power that the process has, that, I've created space for, is that you're met where you are. Like, I meet the person where they are. If that's discomfort, if that's like ready to go, like ready to dive right in, cool. So it's just truly in showing up where you are in the authentic truth of what's going on for you in this moment. Then the structure is that we start with a meditation, that really does ground you into the present moment. It gets you looking, like seeing, being able to visualize what you want your future self to look like and feel like, and really get clear on how does she move, what does she wear, how does she speak, what do her relationships look like, that kind of thing. And then just being able to trust the process from there on out. So and things that I have incorporated in my shoots are movement. So I did a lot of months and a lot of time with ecstatic dance and 5 rhythms, and I think movement is so wonderful and powerful in allowing your emotions to move through and not get stuck. So movement's a big one. Vocalization is huge. Like most women go through crying, speaking what they have not been able to speak before, screaming, so vocalization is often part of it. Nature is a huge component of my work, because there is the element of the feminine, like earth is intrinsically feminine because she's just there and she's nurturing, she's alive, she's sensitive. So there's the element of being able to connect with the earth and nature that is actually helping us connect with ourselves and our own hearts and our bodies. So that's a huge component of the work. Yeah. And yeah, I would say that's the biggest, that's really the overview of some of the things we go through. But everyone looks different.
I love it. And so you have this like part of the session where you're going through all of these things you've not been able to say, all of these feelings you've not been able to experience, all of the, allowing the earth to heal in whatever way, and really getting present, not only with where we are now, but also with where we're going. And then you have another part of the shoot, which is, all right, now that we've cleared a whole bunch of, whatever was working, wasn't working, whatever we honor what was happening in the past and we move through it and move on to the future. Like now there's like more of the branding and more of the, this is where you're going. So tell us a little bit about that part of it.
Oh yeah. Thanks for bringing that back in. Yeah. And this is like the coolest for me. One of the coolest parts in this process is watching someone right in front of my eyes make that shift. So after they've had the space, they have, released emotions that they've been hiding or repressing a little bit. Then it's like the moment they just stand and be like, oh, well, I can let that go now. And now here's what I want. It's like seeing a different human in front of me that is, you know, clearer, that is more confident, that is like knows what she wants. And I'm like, holy crap, this is a new relationship that we have, that we're in now. This is new. And being able to kind of foster that experience of like, yeah, you get to decide what you want to do. Like, where is your body taking you? How does she want to be, you know? And so often I don't really have to do anything. I am sitting there in awe of this human and letting her explore. And so um that's the magic, is like when the stories die of this is who I have to be, this is who someone else told me I should look, or who I should be, or how I should look, it's so natural. Some like they typically know exactly how to stand and how to be, what they want to incorporate. Like the last woman I worked with does body work and all that, and does sensual embodiment, and she just did her thing. She was just her. We brought in Palo Santo. She started, you know, like she stripped and, you know, just started moving. And it's just magical what happens. And, you know, and everyone's different, of course. So sometimes, you know, there are props involved. There are, you know, sometimes it's actually in a different spot. So it's not in nature, it's in my home studio, you know, and, but the freedom to be able to say, this is what I want, this is how I want to show up, these are the photos I want to get, is so cool, because it's totally your design. I am just here showing you, reflecting back to you, you know, capturing the thing, and sometimes guiding if you've slipped back into story or something. But yeah,
I love it. It's such, based on the like photographers that I've worked with in the past, like it's such a powerful process that you're taking people through, and it feels like so much more than getting a photo shoot, right? Like it's
yeah.
I know that in my own personal photo shoots, like I've had to kind of like amp my own energy up, and there's nothing wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where I was in the time, but like you, for my own, like during my day of photo shoot, like I didn't really get comfortable behind the camera until like the very end, and then I was playing with the camera and flirting with the camera and
Mm-hmm.
doing all of those things. um Whereas I think now I am a very different person. I would be more like that in the beginning,
Mm-hmm.
and doing all of that. But it feels like you're helping people get to that space much quicker, just because of your intentionality and the
Mm-hmm.
space that you're holding. And so I think that's really magical.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, this is something that I care so deeply about. And if a connection isn't there, the photos aren't really going to come out,
Yeah.
you know? And yeah, I mean, it really does depend on what someone is like. Being seen
Mm-hmm.
is sometimes the scariest thing, because there are things we feel shame around. There are things that we think we cannot show. And that's why a space of compassion,
Mm-hmm.
and like, I know exactly how you feel, because I've been there in my own way. It's so, being seen and letting yourself be seen is so vulnerable. So I believe that I must come to the session with compassion, non-judgment, and love, because it is so epically scary to show yourself in like the places that you don't believe that you deserve love or that are lovable. And that's why this work is so sensitive, because you are in the process of getting these photos for yourself, for your business, whatever reason. You are actively choosing something else,
Right.
and choosing to risk relationships. You're choosing to risk business. You're choosing to risk everything that you know.
Yeah.
And that's no small feat. That's huge. That takes so much courage. And so for me to be able to do this work, I've had to go through it myself. Like, yeah, this isn't like cutesy, you know?
Yeah.
This is not for the faint of heart. This is for people who are like so ready to all.
You went, I can't hear you now. There you go.
To show themselves that there is something different, that their stories are not absolute, that there is something, like there's a better way or a healthier way to be and relate in the world. And that's what I care about. That's what I want for people, is to, because relationships are so integral. They are why we're here. It's like relationships are it. So if you can't relate on in healthy ways, and you're in that struggle, like that, for me, that's where happiness can come from, is that place inside myself, that I can connect with myself, that I trust myself, that I love myself. And from there, having relationships that are that way, that are healthy, that are loving, that are, you know, equal, is where so much happiness for me comes, where I can be like, oh my gosh, I'm seen for who I am, and I am celebrated and loved for who I am. For me, that is success.
Mm-hmm.
That's incredible.
And to me, like, it is a really scary, vulnerable place to be seen, and especially in photos, in the way that you're doing them. And so you have, like, it is not for people who don't want to be seen, right, and aren't ready to step into that. But if you feel an inclination to this work, like, it is so empowering, like, to get to the other side of it. Like, anything that's super scary. I mean, I know for myself, I think even in our conversation, you were like, how are you feeling? And I was like, scared. I'm scared. And that is always a signal to me that this is my next step, that this is where I'm going now. Because to me, like, that's like the edge of life, right? Like, that's like, it's growth. It's like expansion. It's like, oh, this scares the piss out of me. Just like that day that I spoke on stage at Connection Camp and shared that story that scared the living piss out of me.
Yeah.
And I knew that that was my next step, whether I was going to start bawling doing it, no matter what the reactions were of the crowd. I knew that that was what I had to do. And so to anyone who's like, God, this sounds incredible, but it's not for me, I can't go there, I'd like to challenge you, lovingly.
Yeah.
Because it's so powerful. And the confidence that comes, I love the fact that you're able to speak to seeing people in the beginning of it, and then seeing that flip, and being able to see them really owning
Yes.
all of the pieces of who they are.
Yeah.
Because like you so eloquently said, we often get taught that you can only show this piece and you can only show this piece, and this is only for, like my sensuality and my sexuality is only for my beloved. No, that is actually a core piece of who I am, is like a very sensual, sexual person. And so to me, it's important to have that becoming more into my business, because that is a place of power. That is like how we're connected to the divine, is through orgasm, is through, there's presence in that, there's joy in that, we get to learn how much more goodness we allow into our lives by how much pleasure we're willing to take on. Like, there's so much there. That it like, now I'm really getting excited. Like,
no, I love it.
I think it's so important, and I feel like this is why your work is so important to the world, and especially for female business owners, because we need to get out of this mindset of I have to fit in a box that was traditionally male, that only allowed me to wear a skirt and wear heels and have my hair like this and, like whatever. And I didn't wear makeup for a very long time. I only recently went back to wearing makeup because I was like, oh, I actually do like makeup, and I like the way it feels, and I like it. And I stopped wearing pants. Like, I only wear yoga pants now. Like, for the most part. So I mean, they are pants, but they're not slacks, right? Like they're not
the restrictive. Yeah.
Right. It's not what the norm is. And so that is what I'm really resonating with your work. And it was why I really felt so called to share it with a wider audience. Is we're still, us as women, and I said this in the beginning, we're still so new, relatively new in the workplace. And we've been working under this very masculine paradigm that has not allowed us to be, and the male paradigm works for men. It's not that it doesn't work, right? But a lot of women, we've sacrificed our fullness and our wholeness to fit into that.
And there's so much there to be, to be angry about, to be sad about, and it's like, this is just the way it's been. Like, and there's a way to, it doesn't mean that it has to continue.
Right.
And there are parts of it that do work, and that's awesome. And we need that. And there's a different way to approach it. Like, it doesn't have to look like any one way. And that's what I think is so cool about being a woman, being someone being a human who cares about my truth, my authenticity, my way of being, is like, look, I'm happy that something that like that works for you. Cool. Keep doing the thing that works for you.
Right.
But don't make me try and fit in that one way. I want to figure out how I want to do it. And that's the space that I want women to be in, is like, there's nothing wrong with what you're doing if it works for you.
Right.
And if it works for the people closest to you. And I want to do it the way I want to do it, and what works for me. And if it works for me, celebrate me. Be like, cool, you found the path that works for you. And so if anything, I just think there needs to be more space for people to do it differently, to not fit into a mold. And that's where I see the union happening between patriarchy and matriarchy and divine feminine and divine masculine, however you want to you say it. It's just in owning your heart, in owning what works for you and what you want. And that's it. Like it can be that simple, that it's just about your heart.
And helping others find their truth.
Yeah. And in saying, you do not have to look like everybody else. You do not have to do it the way everyone else does it. You don't.
Yeah.
You
can't.
Don't. And you can't. And you're going to try and you're going to look like someone else. And people like healers and coaches, the kind of people I work with, that doesn't work. It doesn't work because people are waking up and they can sniff inauthenticity a mile away now.
And even if they're not aware that they're doing it.
Exactly.
Right? Like we all feel whether someone is really in their truth or whether they're not, whether we're conscious of that or not.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's even more important now to really step into what is your truth and how do you feel into that. And so I love that that is part of your process with the photos, is what are the feelings that you've not been able to express? What are the things you've not been able to say? And let's move them out of your body, because there is something to moving energy physically out of our bodies. That we have a very sedentary lifestyle in this country. And that's not right, wrong, or indifferent. It's just the way it is. And so how do we reconnect then back into our body and really bring that out? So
yeah,
so good.
Yeah. And it's so free. There's so much freedom. Like when I know who I am, what I want, and what I want to do and how I want to be, oh my God. It's so like, it's literally life, that all there is left to do is to live and to express yourself and to be joyous. And oh man, that freedom is so delicious.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's like, and when you're really in that space of authenticity and being in alignment with what your soul is desiring and not trying to fit it into all these different well-meaning boxes that society and family and religion and culture have all put on us. Like money is easy, like business is easy. People feel that you're really coming from a soulful place and they respond. And so that is, I love that you're doing this through photographs, because I just had never seen anyone do it through photos in this way.
Yeah, well, it's so powerful to see yourself, like to really have it's like mirror work, but through something tangible, something that you can go back to, something that you can use, something that like shows you proof that you've done something fucking amazing for yourself, that you have like done the work, that you're doing the work, you know. And I love, and then for me it's just the artistic piece. Like I get to share my art with the world through this, you know. This is what I care about, this is what I want to show. But for me, because I'm visual and I know I'm not the only one who's visual, you know, it's something like visceral and tangible, and that's important for me. So yeah, photos are huge. And because they're a huge, like, people use them,
right?
You know, photos are everywhere, for advertising, for, you know, selfies, for whatever it is. Photos are everywhere. You know, being able to show who you are is through photos and the written word, but they can go together.
Yeah, absolutely, they can. Absolutely. And it's something that you can really be proud of. I mean, to me, there's so much self-love too that comes through allowing yourself to be photographed in this way. Like, it feels like your clients are getting such a deeper appreciation. Like you had mentioned mirror work. And so for anyone who's not familiar with what that means, Louise Hay talks about mirror work, I think in the 80s, early 80s, is when she started talking about it and teaching on it. And it's really like this practice of sitting in front of the mirror for a set amount of time and saying, I love you, into your own eyes.
And looking yourself in the eye.
Looking yourself in the eye and really like, and it can be confronting, it can be difficult, but it is so powerful. And so I can see your correlation between the two, because there is something really vulnerable about being seen. And for my own example, like I think you and I had talked about this on the conversation a couple weeks ago. Recently, my partner called me out on something, was like, oh, it seems like you're kind of like, is everything okay? And in the past, like if this would have been 2 years ago, I would have shut down. I would have sent him an email, so angry, like defensive, and would have responded. And instead, I mean, because I've done a lot of personal development at this point, I sat there and I was like, no, I think everything's okay, and later on I was like, oh, this was going on, blah, blah, blah. And I called it. I was like, did you see my growth there?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I did.
Yes, that is so huge. Being able, I mean, and that's such a huge part of intimacy and relationship, is being able to be like, okay, either like an ouch, like being, ooh, ouch, or like, let me try that on, and let me look, let me see if that resonates. And then being able to either say like, no, that doesn't fit for right now, but I'll let you know if anything changes. And or being like, ooh, yeah, you know what, there is something there, and it's scary to me, or it's painful for me, and then being able to show those parts to the people we care about most, and that pulls people in there. And that's what I mean by radiant magnetism, is being able to be like, okay, this is coming up, I'm being, this is something that someone's telling to me, or whatever, this emotion's coming up, and I can breathe through it, I can sit with it, and I can be like, ooh, yeah, here's a part that I haven't learned to love. Here's something, here's a story, here's a trigger, here's a pain point, and letting that pull someone in to understanding you, into loving you more, into seeing you and being like, oh, I get it. I get this behavior, or I get this. And like, how now we can really get into it and change some things, or, just sit with it and love it, or whatever needs to happen in the moment. That's what true intimacy is here's my truth and it's safe. And here's my truth and it brings you in. It brings us closer together, instead of like two reactive bombs, and I've done that too. I've been the bomb, and I'm like, whoa, okay, that does not work. Ooh, that's destructive, so, but the more you learn to, like you said, just like be honest with yourself, to not shut down, to stay open to what's in front of you or inside of you, it is that self-love. And it's also that self-love leads to more love with other people.
Right.
Because then you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. Fuck.
Right.
Oh, damn it. But thank you, because then now we're closer.
Yeah.
So it's learning to communicate and to show yourself in a way that pulls in, rather than, that action of like, nope, bye. So,
I'm just gonna put this bubble all around me and you can't touch me, and I don't
totally. But that's so cool. Like, it's so awesome that you've been able to do that work with yourself and for the people around you, because that is such a courageous decision to really delve into who you are, what's going on inside, and then be able to share that. Like, that is so amazing. So like, kudos to you for the work that you've done
Thank you.
in your, in your availability to be seen and to look and to share, because that's, it's amazing.
It is, it's so scary when you start to do that. So thank
Mm-hmm.
you for that. And
Mm-hmm.
kudos to you as well, because I know that you've done a tremendous amount of work as well for that. And it's always worth it.
It is.
It is always worth it.
Yes.
Sharing my writing that day
Yes.
was pissing my pants, scared
Mm-hmm.
out of my mind, almost couldn't speak it without bawling,
Mm-hmm.
shaking so much.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned to move away from external validation, right? I think that's a big core lesson for a lot of us, and
Mm-hmm.
into like, no, I know that this is what I need to do, whether someone else externally validates it or not. Like, this is just where I need to be in this moment.
Mm-hmm.
And but it was very healing to see the impact that it had on people, and
Absolutely.
the healing that it was allowed to. And that really helped me to be more open. So to anyone who's like, I think that this sounds great, but I don't even know where to start. Here's the thing, like, your intuition is always talking to you.
Mm-hmm.
And when you feel guided to do something, instead of just going, oh, that's too scary, go, huh,
That's scary.
that's
What's
scary.
scary?
And what's here for me?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. I love that. I love that. And like I said, your share, like you saying yes to where you needed to be and what you needed to share in that moment, regardless of external outcome or whatever, like that impacted me personally.
yeah.
To be like, oh man, there's pain here for me. There's something here for me. And like, this speaks to my experience and gives me the space to drop into that pain and be like, whoa. And in that experience, I was able to share with Andy, by the way. That was like a huge moment for Andy and I, my partner, to be there for me.
Yeah.
And he wasn't my partner at the time. He's my partner now. But like, it led to the moment where I saw him because I saw myself. I was honest with myself about how I was feeling, and to share that without being fixed, without being like repressed or told I can't feel that. It was just like, this is my truth right now, that I'm hurting and I feel raw and like, whoa, and that is what made Andy like, and I connect like on a deeper level, was this is how I'm feeling. And he listened and was like, wow, yeah, it sounds like that's a lot. And I'm like, yeah, and then for me, that moment was like, oh my God, I want this. I want more of this. Who is this person? Like, he just held space for me in a way that no one has ever held space for me before. Like, whoa. So that's the impact. I don't know if you know that, actually. I don't know if you knew that led to Andy and I connecting in a way that was
I don't
like
know that I did.
deep and profound. So
Yeah.
yeah, surprise. Thank you. Is like, but that's the impact you can have on someone by sharing your truth, is like, oh my God, me too. Or, oh wow.
I can resonate with that. I felt something similar, even though it was a
Yeah.
different circumstance.
Yeah. Different circumstance, but it's, and that's what connects us, is that same felt experience.
And that's the thing that I think so often our society gets lost in. We get on sides of certain subjects.
Mm-hmm.
We don't see that we're all feeling the same feelings.
Yep. And protecting the same heart. Like we're all like doing protection mechanisms, to survive, to stay safe, to, prevent us from getting hurt again the way that we've been hurt. And so much of that is just protection. And it makes so much sense. Like, going through, like, if I think if everyone shared their story of where they've been, what they've come from, we would all be so much more compassionate with each other. and so much more like, holy crap, you've done so much to get where you are. Like, you survived through that. Holy crap, you're amazing. You know, and to be able to see someone's behavior as like, whoa, you've been through some hard stuff, and it makes sense that you would want to protect that.
Right.
And that you would want to not show something that you have in the past been told is not lovable. Like, of course you wouldn't want to show that. Like, of course you wouldn't want to be vulnerable. Like, so, you know, so much, I don't know, this whole, I don't want to get into that, but life is hard sometimes. Life is really hard sometimes. And to be able to choose vulnerability, to choose connection, to choose your own heart, you know, like, it isn't easy. It is a big thing. And like, making that choice is so huge
And freeing
and liberating.
right.
Because I don't know about you, but like, I don't want to stay trapped in my past. Like, I do not want to repeat the things that happened in my past. I want to live in a different reality.
Right.
In one that I say yes to, that me, Heather, in this body, in this lifetime, that I am choosing. Don't you?
Yes.
You know, like,
and I want it to be a full body yes.
Yes.
And if it is not, going back to this like orgasmic, sensual, like, if my entire body is not agreeing, then it is not, it's a no. It's a no. And to settle for anything otherwise at this point does not fly for me.
And thank God, because you're not doing anyone in your life a service by settling. You know, like, it's not love to make yourself smaller,
right?
Fit into someone else's version of your life.
It's fear.
It's fear, and it's resentment, and it's small and
uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And it's what causes people to continue to have those barriers around their hearts.
Yeah.
And to not share the vulnerability, because the fact of the matter is that once those barricades are gone, and sometimes that's a continual process, right? Like, it's a process. It's not like it happens in a day. Trust me, I wanted it to.
Same.
Can we just be done with this? Like,
right. I'm over it. All right, I'm done.
Right. We're gonna move on. Yeah, that's not actually how it works. I tried. But like, to me, this is where faith comes in.
Yeah.
And where certainty that there is this universal source that is working on our behalf in every single moment is so intricate to this of, I can never fail. There is actually nothing that I can do that is catastrophic. There's nothing I can do that is going to make me die, that's going to make me suffer, that's going to make, unless I choose that. And opening my heart is only, wow, that's what came up. So a couple years ago, I had 3 deaths happen in a 6-month period of time.
Whoa.
And by the last one, I was, yeah, there's emotion there. I was a puddle. I mean, to like put it mildly, I could barely function. And it was actually that moment that I decided to quit my 18-year career in utilities, because I was like, life is too short. I cannot do this. And I remember sitting at the dining room table, and my beloved Patrick was like sitting next to me, rubbing my back. And he was like, how are you doing? And I was like, and I just lost it. I was like, not good. Like, and I was like, I love so many people. I need to love less people, because I cannot continue to feel this way.
Mm-hmm.
And thank God for him, because he sat there and he was like, it is a blessing that you love so deeply and that you have so many like relationships in your life and that you connect with people everywhere you go. And he was like, don't ever, like, I get your loss and your grievance in this moment, like you're mourning. And he didn't say all of this like verbally, but energetically, you know. And he was like, but it and it made me see, like, he had always admired the way I put my heart out there, because he's always been more shy and more introverted. And so to see me just like continually be like, I love you, I love you, I love you, all my friends, I love you, you know, and to mean it, right? Not, it's not just lip service.
Yeah.
It was so, I'm still to this day super appreciative that he said that to me. That was what helped me continue to stay open in that moment.
Oh, wow. Yeah. It's so incredible to have someone so close to you able to say that and to help you stay open. I think that's such a mark of a good partner, a good friend, a good anything, is someone who can empathize with you and also say, and don't let this close your heart.
Right.
Don't let this close. And so it's so amazing that you have someone like that in your life and listened and listened, you know. And yeah, like loss is a big deal. Loss is a big deal. And it isn't like that's part of why people don't love fully, because it's scary. It's so scary to put your heart on the line, to consistently be honest, even when that honesty like shatters their perceptions, their illusions, you know, the way that they think that the relationship is, but it isn't, you know, like honesty can sometimes be the thing that crushes people. But to be honest anyway. And loving is one of the most courageous decisions, because there is like loss is guaranteed in some way or another, whether it's through death. I mean, that's something I've grappled with so much, is like one day, whether through choice or through death, Andy and I aren't going to be together anymore.
Right.
That's hard for me to handle sometimes, you know, or where sometimes the weight of knowing that I will lose him is heartbreaking. And like, I cry, you know, but it's just like, yeah, it's a risk. Loving is a risk. And being open is sometimes very scary and hard and
worth it.
And worth it. And worth it, because the love I have now and the love you have now is worth it, because it's so fulfilling. And I don't have to be anyone but myself. And I think you have the same experience.
Right.
And that level of relaxation and freedom in relationship of, I don't have to be anyone but me. And that is so it makes everything else worth it. It makes the emotions worth it. It makes the potential loss worth it. It just makes you appreciate brings you to the present moment and makes you appreciate what you have now in this moment.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that was what I got when you were talking about taking your clients through this. You're literally just holding the space of love and allowing them to be exactly who they are. So I love this conversation. And I'm so appreciative of you. I love where we went and like of all of this, like not just talking about your work, but because it is relationships and it is something, we're in a human body having this human experience exactly to experience these things, to experience these emotions, to heal these layers, to share this vulnerability, to have this love, to have these relationships, to move through all of these different experiences. And I love it.
Me too. Yeah, these conversations are so juicy for me.
I love them. So you have offered a free gift to our listeners. So tell us a little bit about this and where they can find it.
Yeah. So I am offering a meditation. So it's the meditation that I use with all of my clients before we start our session. So you'll be able to have access to that so that you can do this work on your own, that you maybe it's prep to working with me or just for whatever, a beneficial meditation for you. It's visual. So it's a visual guided meditation. And you can find that at www.transfirephotography.com/free gift.
I love it. Thank you so much for that.
So welcome.
So again, if you feel called to, if you're scared out of your mind about the types of photos that Heather does, I highly encourage you to reach out to her. Definitely take advantage of her free gift at transfirephotography.com/free gift. And take advantage of that guided meditation. I can tell you, watch the show more than this episode. If you know me at all. And we really appreciate all of the listeners and viewers of this show. Thank you. I'm going to mute you. You keep getting a little staticky. We really appreciate you showing up, sharing your love, your heart, your openness, your vulnerability with us in this interview, in this series, in this podcast. And so if you feel like this has touched you and you want to share the love on social media, we really appreciate that. We have a big hairy goal of 100,000 downloads by September 3rd of 2020. So yeah, share this far and wide. And also, if you really feel like this is going to touch somebody, you thought of somebody, oh my God, I know so-and-so and she really needs to hear about this conversation, please share it with them. And as always, we are really a feminine view of entrepreneurship for women, by women. This is the Divine Feminine Leaders podcast. My name is Celeste Hartwell. Again, this is Heather Manwaring with Transfire photography, and we really appreciate you so much. We love you so much, and we're wishing you so much love and courage and just open-hearted goodness, freedom, liberation, all of that.
Amen. Thank you so much for having me and allowing space for this beautiful conversation.
Yes, thank you.
All
right, we love you guys so much, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.